everybody. We're very excited to invite you to the webinar on digitization of fashion legacy brands. And I'm especially happy to introduce you to Isaac Korn, who's the Director of Innovation and Automation at Perry Ellis International. Perry Ellis International is a leading designer, distributor, and licensor of women's and men's apparel, accessories, and fragrances. They have an extensive brand portfolio, and some of their legacy brands are Perry Ellis, Penguin, Laundry by Shirley Siegel, Rafaela, etc. And they also have collaborations and licensing deals with brands like Nike and Callaway Golf. So without further ado, I introduce you to Isaac, who has accepted our invite today, and very excited to hear his journey through production and automation and also transformation, which is what he is heralding and leading at Perry Ellis.
Great. Yes. So thanks for having me here. It's a pleasure to be here. You did a great introduction. So I'm the Director of Innovation at Perry Ellis International. So we're a global fashion house of brands. We have and license and own over 20 brands. You did a very good summary of the brands that we do. I've been with Perry Ellis for the past, I would say, 7 years. Oh my Lord. Before that, I was director of sourcing Zumba Fitness, and before of that, I was the licensee for Everlast in Latin America in Colombia, and I also had a manufacturing company for sportswear apparel in Colombia as well. So I've been in the fashion industry all of my life. My family has been in the textile business as well for all of my life, so you can say that it runs in my blood, being in the textile and in the fashion industry. So I understand the process from the beginning all the way to the end, and now focusing more and more in how we can make this process more technological, more innovative, and more digital to be able to move forward.
Wonderful. So I was reading up a little bit more about you, and I saw the one thing that really stuck out to me is that you do have a burning desire for transformation. So I think it's great that you come from such deep knowledge of sourcing, of textiles, but I think what is making you pivot towards more innovation and automation is having that understanding of the legacy process, but you want to introduce technology and you want to take that process and bring it to the new century per se. But and I think that is where we at FlixStock connected so much with you, is that we also have this desire for transformation, and we like to empower brands and industries with digital transformation, which is kind of more of our topic of discussion today. It is digitization of the fashion industry, and given that you've had so much depth, how do you feel about, and just to sort of preface that, I too come from a deep expertise in wholesale, in apparel wholesale, and I've worked with some legacy American brands as well, like Calvin Klein, Nicole Miller, and I have found in my experience that it's a little late to adopt, right? We've been doing the same things for the last how many years. So I'm curious to see, how you decided to take this brave step and what some of your hurdles may have been so far.
Yeah, sure. So, as you said, our industry has been, for my knowledge and for what I have seen throughout the years, is that the processes have not changed a lot. So the way that you need a fabric, it's the same way that you used to need a fabric hundreds of years ago. The only thing that has changed, of course, is the machinery, so you can knead it a little bit faster and all that stuff. But the way that you build a garment, it's the same way that you have built a garment in the past. Again, machinery and efficiencies help there. And yes, maybe some automation comes into play and things like that. But the whole idea of the industry has always been the same. And there's a lot of waste in the entire supply chain. And the way that we have sold, not only as as retailers, but as wholesalers mostly, the way that we sell our brands, it's very physical driven. So we need a lot of samples. So we need to be able to show every single garment. And I understand this industry is very touchy feely, and we want to touch the fabric in order to see how it is and all that stuff. But I do believe that there's a huge opportunity to be able to change the industry, to be able to think a little bit more digital. We're in front of a computer, we're in front of a phone, we're in front of a screen. I would say 70% of our days. We're already very digital, but it seems that we cannot turn this industry to be more digital. So I do feel that there's a lot of opportunity there. Of course, it's not going to be 100% digital, but I feel that we can make strides to be able to make it more digital, to make it a little bit more hybrid, how we can make decisions without the need of all the samples that we send, without all the swatches that we send, how we can be able to make decisions more digital. We're already able to make decisions when we shop online. Nobody thought that it was going to be possible to shop online, and we're already making decisions shopping online. So why we cannot make all the other decisions of how to create a garment a little bit more digital if we have the correct information, if we have the correct feedback to be able to make that decision and make an intelligent decision. So that's the process that we're working on. That's the process that we're striving to achieve, and that's how we're trying to change the industry. And it's gonna take us there. I'm not the only one doing that. I'm not the only one preaching for this. I think that a lot of people in the industry are doing that, but I feel that we need to be able to take it one step further. It needs to come from all the players in the industry, not only from us that we sell, also from the big retailers that buy our garments. They need to be able to be open to that change. They need to be able to be willing to make decisions also in a more digital way, because sometimes we get those constraints is that when we go out and sell our collections, they mandate some sort of sample. So we're doing these amazing digital presentations. We're able to present in 3D. We're able to showcase the entire breadth of our assortment in 3D, but then they need some sort of sample to be able to make a decision. So it's not only from us that we're not the manufacturers, but we are the wholesalers to be able to showcase this in a digital way. It's to be able for all the players in the industry to be able to accept these digital innovations a little bit more, and that's what we're trying to preach and we're trying to push throughout the industry.
Yeah, I totally hear you. I do see what you mean about how the entire ecosystem has to adopt technology. You know, you could be at a front end trying to push the envelope, but then your meetings with XYZ retailer, they want to see all the samples, they can't take a decision. That friction that comes, I mean, it is end of the day, they are your partners, they are your collaborators as wholesalers. You want to get the message across to the retailers, but this entire industry shift has to come when all the top stakeholders also agree to participate in the digitization. But having said that, I think a great segue, like you mentioned, that we spend 70% of our time online. But I think last year was a great wake up call, with COVID, where we were restricted. And I think we saw exponential e commerce growth. So we landed up spending 99% of our time online. And I think business continued in a certain way. But I was curious, did this accelerate your push? Because I understand that what you're doing, even with the Perry Ellis ecosystem, because of course your collaborators are maybe a little bit more stuck in the physical world. So having COVID come in, and like, did you find that it was a challenge to get product images online? Did you need to like suddenly push a lot more onto e-com, and what were some of the solutions that you tried to adopt? You mentioned 3D, and I want to talk a little bit more about 3D because that's also what brought us together. But I also want to understand what happened with product imagery, e-com. How did you sort of overcome some of that, or are still working towards it?
Okay, so we have two sides of our business. We have our the direct to consumer, and we have our wholesale side of the business. So for the wholesale side of the business, the good thing is that we have been pushing digital innovations and digital transformation even before COVID. So when COVID hit, of course it accelerated, but we were ready for it. So we were one of the few brands that as soon as COVID hit, we already had the tools to be able to implement. So we didn't have to rush for it. Uh, but the brands that were not 100% digital, they start to like ask to be 100% digital. But we already had the tools to be able to do that. So it wasn't like a big change for everybody because the tools already exist. So that's something that we're very proud of because it's not that we foresaw a pandemic happening. Nobody, sorry, nobody saw that. But as we were pushing for more digital transformation, we saw that that was the way to be able to do that. And we got a lot of praise from the retailers and for everybody to be so prepared and so ready at a very, very early stage because they were able to make decisions based on our digital innovations. Then on the e-com side, we also had to get a little bit creative into that. So we were able to shoot the garment in some cases, but we didn't have the model in the same place. So as we have been doing in this digital transformation, we always thought about ways of how to be able to shoot or to create digital assets for e-com without having everybody in the same place. So how do we can use our 3D images and then create overpose those 3D images with our models that we already shot without garments, or the same thing how we can shoot on a mannequin and then overpose that image on doing that. So we have already done a lot of those exercises. So COVID actually made us to be more proficient doing those exercises. We leverage 3D imagery even with HoloCore or with on model shooting. We leverage shooting on mannequin and then overposing on model. We leverage all of those different digital technologies and all that stuff. But something that's happening with e-commerce a little bit more is that more and more people when I say the customers are asking to be able to provide them with more lifestyle shoots of the garment. So it's not your basic front and back and call it a day. They want to see the garment in action. They want to see how you wear the garment in a daily basis. And they're asking for more of this imagery. And that's where we're finding a struggle because there's so much that you can do digital. I'm not saying that you're not able to generate a digital image of a lifestyle shoot, but there's a lot of work related into that. So in some cases, it's easier to take a picture of a model with the garment in that lifestyle shoot. So we definitely need to be able to find a middle ground. I'm not saying that we can change everything to digital, but what I'm saying is that there has to be like a middle ground to be able to see that. I see a bigger benefit on the wholesale side of things because wholesale can benefit more from this digital transformation. E-com, it's evolving as well. It's becoming even bigger than it was before. People are trusting more in e-com, so we need to be able to provide with the digital assets in e-com that can get us to the next level. So also we have to understand what happens in that area. So it's a little bit of a give and take, I would say.
Yeah. Yeah. I think what you're saying is the way you see it right now, it's more hybrid on e-com, right? Like lifestyle imagery is still being done in the physical world on models, soldier images on e-com. Yes, we've been able to digitize that. I mean, that's what we've been able to do here at FlixStock as well. But we use a lot of AI enabled technology, programmatic photography, and it is about pushing the envelope. And right now we're able to dabble in a little bit of social media imagery, but yes, that human content that some customers require in their digital touch point is still another area of innovation that we need to work more, and sort of that could be the next goal for for you with your desire for transformation, and for us with technology, is how do we also deliver that experience. But you explored quite a bit in your, with Perry Ellis. And I was going to say, kudos that you were ready and going during COVID. It was a great moment to be able to even engage with your retailers, show them what you've been preparing for. So have you explored artificial intelligence with things like product tagging, or even photography? How do you feel about AI and 3D adoption in your world, and also with like some of the other brands that you're talking to? Is there a buzz? Is there something you think
Yeah,
is
no,
going to be?
sure. Like, of course, like AI, it's well, if you don't have some sort of AI, you're done, because now you need AI more than everything else. But AI is a word that is just thrown around like, hey, I can do AI, and it's not real AI. It's just a totally different thing. So the whole thing behind AI is artificial intelligence, and I want to say like artificial intelligence. So it's you're given permission for a machine to be able to make decisions that a human used to make. And that's the importance about artificial intelligence, is to be able to make those sort of decisions. Of course, much faster and more decisions at the same time, and so on and so forth. But artificial intelligence needs to be intelligent. If it's not making those decisions for you, if it's not actually taking that task away from a human and producing those decisions, then it's not real artificial intelligence. Maybe it can be something else, but it's not artificial intelligence. So sometimes we just throw things out and say like artificial intelligence, but it's not the way it is. So for sure, we're seeing artificial intelligence. We're working with that. We're working with that in different levels of the company. I'm not able to share everything with you guys, of course, but we're definitely working with that. But we're working to the level that we need to be able to implement artificial intelligence in order to be able to help us make those decisions, or to make the decisions for us. So that's of course something that we're looking, and something that we're striving. Auto tagging, or what we call computer vision, because that's what auto tagging is. So of course that becomes very important, and that becomes very important earlier in the process, and along the way in the process. We're trying to have a complete workflow that as we create a garment, and we're creating garments in 3D, how we can push that garment from inception all the way to e-com without having to change a lot, and how we can make that auto tagging part of the equation help us to be able to have that metadata on those images, to be able to push that metadata of those images to our e-com. So when searches become more intelligent and more accurate to the point. So of course that's something that we're working on. But we have to be just smart of the way that we do all of these incorporations, because sometimes if you don't have the correct data from the get-go, then garbage in, garbage out, you're not going to be able to get the results. So you need to be able to have the correct data from the get-go. You need to be able to organize the house at the beginning, in order that for the data that you feed into the system, then can provide you with the correct feedback at the end of the day.
I mean, I think another word to use would be machine learning. I think you're right. Like, people do throw around artificial intelligence, but there are, there has to be a lot. The machine has to learn some things. It can still alleviate a lot of your grunt work, perhaps, but so definitely another area of exploration and growth. But you mentioned that you were already working on a lot within your organization. But I was curious, because what do you feel about the ROIs? Just like you mentioned, when people throw around artificial intelligence, but there is definitely a cost of even adopting machine learning. So how are you able to demonstrate? And I will only use you as an example. I'm sure I could talk to other companies, and they'll be like, oh, this is a big friction, and you may want to share, or you may not want to share. When you are answerable to someone, like, how do you feel like you get over that that hurdle of demonstrating, okay, I need X amount of dollars and I can give you this, but how do you measure that ROI?
Well, it all depends what you're trying to achieve and what are your KPIs. Of course, when you're automating and you're trying to make processes more streamlined, you're trying to reduce time in the decision making. So time is it's money. So that's the way that you produce ROI. If you're able to make a decision faster and you're able to make a decision quicker, then you can produce ROI.
Yeah.
So you need to be able to demonstrate that what's that ROI behind it. Also, if you're able to make smarter decisions, then you're able to make less mistakes, and less mistakes cost you less money. So that's another ROI that you can demonstrate. It's not only on the revenue end that you can demonstrate an ROI. It's in the process end. The process is very important for a company. If you have a more streamlined process, then you're producing more ROI because you're able to do things faster. You're able to do things with less amount of people, maybe, or you're able to make smarter decisions along the way. So it means that you have to repeat yourself less and less and less. So you're more focused in the decisions that you're already making, and you're more focused on producing products that are more winners and less products that are what we call dogs that they don't sell. So that's whole part of the process. Of course, at the end of the day, you want it to impact revenue. You want it to impact sales, but sometimes you don't see it right away. But you can see an ROI on streamlining the workflow. That I do feel that that's also very important for the company or for any company to be able
Yep.
to showcase that.
And also, like, turnaround time, as you mentioned, time is money. So if you can show that itself, it is it's very advantageous towards your workflow. So curious, Isaac, like, since you are all cutting edge, you've been exploring all kinds of technology, can you tell us a little bit more about what you would like to achieve, or not what you're working on, like, whatever you can share, what information, but what do you see as the next step in your journey in as a innovation and automation expert for the fashion
Oh,
industry?
yeah, no. It's a great journey to be part of right now. There's a lot of conversation right now about NFTs and how can that become something in the future. I'm a little bit hesitating about that, but I do feel that there's there's a lot of options in the meta universe that we're building, and personally, I'm a little bit hesitated about that, but it doesn't mean that it becomes a reality, and that's what's gonna happen. It's funny because 2 or 3 weeks ago I was watching again this movie Ready Player One, Steven Spielberg movie that talks about that metaverse, and we're seeing more and more and more articles and more people talking about it, and more companies even starting to create like digital only collections to be sold in the metaverse. So that's something that we definitely need to keep an eye on. It's still very early, but the adoption rate is becoming faster. All of the gaming industry is growing like crazy. We're seeing people spending hours and hours in Fortnite and in other gaming universes, and it's becoming part of our reality right now. I didn't grow up with that, but I see the kids right now growing up with that. That's how they make friends. That's how they interact nowadays. So it's becoming part of their ritual. So people are spending money buying digital assets for their avatar, and what's gonna happen there? Is that gonna become a new line of business, a new stream of business? We don't know, but we're prepared for it because we're already creating these digital assets. But that's something to keep in the back of our heads, something to think about. There's a lot of internal ethical questions about it that we have no idea what's going to happen, and then how AR is going to play a game in all of that. We know that Apple is going to come with a new AR glasses. Are they going to be successful? Are they going to fail as the Google glasses that came before them? We don't know, but I do believe that the more that these metaverses start growing and the more that people start interacting in these metaverses and they become more of a conversation of our daily conversation, the more that we need to be aware of what's happening there and how to produce assets and goods for those those new universes that are growing right now.
No, absolutely. I mean, I have a 12-year-old nephew and he's on Discord all day long. And then I was, the chat app that they use to converse amongst gamers. But then I was reading that there are going to be a lot of collection launches, like clothing launches on that app as well. So it's all about reaching the customer. And if we're talking to Gen Z or even younger, how do you plug in the brands in their ecosystem? Even Gucci did that with Fortnite, and now I think there's a couple of activewear brands that are actually launching on Discord. So you have to catch the customer young. So I won't be surprised if you have Penguin or somebody showing up in the metaverses as well, since you're always prepared, one step ahead. So that is great, good to know. But yeah, it's pretty. You just earlier it was Instagram, now it's the gaming universe now, and with Zoom, the digital clothing. So I guess digitization is here to stay. I know that luxury has been a little late in adoption, as you mentioned. Our retailers are a little late in adoption, but sounds like it's either do it or be phased out. So I want to thank you for coming today, and I also wanted to see if there were anything else, any closing remarks on your part. But I think it's been a very interesting discussion, and definitely a lot to think about, and definitely congratulate you on your journey of making it happen within a legacy brand.
No, thank you guys for the time. And something that I always say when I finish this conversation is that let's not only think about how digitalization can help only our workflow. Let's think about how it can help the environment. And we're not only doing this because of streamlining processes or reducing prices or things like that. Our industry is a very polluting industry. Making samples, making a yard of fabric, dyeing it, and all that stuff creates a lot of pollution. Everything that we can do to help reduce that, it's already a win. And that's something that we definitely need to think about it. How we can make this industry more clean. Making this industry more clean is not only using recyclable polyester or recyclable materials or organic materials. That's not the only way. Making our industry more sustainable, it's be able to create products that people are going to buy, create products that are going to last longer, waste less when we create those products and we create approvals of those products. We have been used to buying more and more and more and more because our clothing has become more or less disposable. That wasn't the case 20 years ago. I remember that I used to buy a pair of jeans 20 years ago and they used to last me 5 years or something like that, even 10 years or things like that. Right now you buy a pair of jeans every single 6 months because they're cheap and you can throw them away, and because we're made to be able to do this fast fashion type of thing. Now, I'm not saying that fast fashion is bad or good. I'm just saying that our mentality as an industry and as consumers need to change, and we need to be able to support an industry that produces less waste. And that's always something that I try to say, that yes, it can look beautiful business-wise, but we also have to think the bigger picture, and the bigger picture is how we can make this industry less polluting and more green.
Yep. I think we all have to be mindful as producers, manufacturers, and consumers. Like you mentioned, 20 years ago, you bought something, you knew that was going to last. I mean, now I know people are talking circularity, obviously sustainability, as well as, the rental industry, the resale industry, but it's changing. It's just, if the bottom line could somehow be hinged to not just tokenism of sustainability, but actually thinking about it and being mindful in how you consume, buy, as well as produce, it will definitely herald the change that we're looking for. So I think that's a great, thank you for bringing that up. That's a great reason behind the digitization process as well, is how do you reduce. I mean, that's a good giving back to the planet, as well as it's not just about business processes and your own ROI, but it's all about how you are building it for the next generations to come. So thank you again, Isaac, and it's great to see
Thank you
you.
very much. I
And sad I couldn't meet you in person, but hopefully next time we shall make that happen as well.